Welcome back. I'm Connie Sokol, your host, and I am thrilled today for you to meet my next guest. I am so happy in this Get Real series to have Becky Mackintosh with us today. Hi, Becky. Thanks for joining us.
Hi, Connie. I'm so excited to be on your program and to talk with you this morning. So thank you.
Thanks so much. She is a love. I can't wait to talk with her today because her genuineness and her definite authenticity about this very difficult topic of dealing with how do we navigate the world of LGBTQ, and especially if you're have a neighbor, friend, aunt, niece, brother, sister, family, or whatever, you likely have been touched by this of, okay, this is a whole new world. And how do I navigate this with love, compassion, and with not putting my foot in it, but being able to just have deep and respectful and loving and meaningful, nourishing relationships as we navigate different feelings and thoughts on this. And let's get real, right? That's what we're doing with this Get Real series. So I wanted to share a quick bio with you so that you kind of know a little about her. She is the best-selling author of the book, Love Boldly, Embracing Your LGBTQ Loved Ones and Your Faith. And I have read it and loved it, and we'll talk about that in a minute. But she's also a popular speaker, and she's known for inspirational stories and her genuine way of being. And I can tell you honestly, she's the type you could sit down with a lemonade and pour out your whole life story in half a second, because I have done that. So just so you know, she's amazing. And she's also mother of 7 children, ever-growing number of grandchildren, and her husband Scott is amazing. I know him from National Speakers Association. He's also a speaker. An amazing dynamic duo couple. So we're thrilled. So let's jump in with some of these big questions. Let's just say people out there who are like, yes, what you're saying, I don't know how to navigate this. As you speak to so many, and you have been such an advocate for how to handle this unintentionally, you kind of like got thrown into this. So tell us how this kind of came about, just in a brief way of how you got thrown into this whole advocacy environment.
Yes. Well, my son, he's my number 3 of 7 children. He's my middle son. We have 3 boys and 4 daughters. He came out to us in 2012, and he was 24 years old, which made me very sad when he said, "Mom, you're the first person that I talked to about this." That broke my heart, thinking that he had kept that to himself so long. On the other hand, I thought, oh, good, he hasn't told anyone else, so we'll get this figured out.
And we can
and no one has to know, and just, you know, I had a lot to learn. I didn't know much, but that kind of started us on our journey. He wasn't out yet. He wasn't ready to be out, but he had reached the point where he knew he needed to come out to his father and I. And that started us on our journey. In 2014, I felt a really strong impression that I needed to come out of my own closet, the rhetorical closet of a mother with a gay son, a Christian mother with a gay son, and to talk about this, the realities of it, because I knew I wasn't alone. I had read books that had, you know, dozens and dozens of stories in it of the LGBT. So I knew I was not alone, but where, and there was a lot of negativity being heard, but where was the positivity? Like, I knew this affected so many families, and I had learned so much through our journey, and had met some wonderful, wonderful LGBTQ people through my son, that I felt I needed to talk about this in a real way. And so my son and I, in 2014, we did sort of a coming out video, him and I, and that was really scary, making that public. Yeah. Like I at that time, I had a blog called Becky Mac's Blog of Mild Chaos. and so I had written a blog article, and I said, let's do this video, and we'll, you know, release it. I'll you know, post it, share it to my Facebook and Twitter, and see where it goes. But it was scary making that public, and the response was so positive. Like within 24 hours, that video and that blog post had hundreds of shares, and my son and I had literally hundreds reaching out to us, people that we knew, people that we didn't know, and they were telling their stories to us and coming out and letting us know how refreshing it was to hear a positive voice, or to hear someone who was active in their Christian faith talk about this. And so that kind of just sent us on our journey. Just people were reaching out to us. We were being asked to speak. So that's how we got going on this, which then led 2017, our church did a video of our family story called the Macintosh Story. And that has opened a lot of doors and such too.
Really quickly, where can they find that video? Because it is so powerful. I saw that also.
Yeah, well, it's on YouTube, and it's called the Macintosh Story. And Macintosh is spelled with a K, Mackintosh. And then it's also on the Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints on their website and on their Gospel Library app. If you know, people have that app, so it can be found in those places.
Which is amazing in the sense that you had mentioned in your book that the other movies and the other things that were on that website were more of, okay, you're staying with the promises and covenants that you've made, and so you're feeling those feelings, but you're not acting on them. And you were like, well, I'm a little bit worried because my son is doing other things, and I'm not sure if that's going to be in line with it. But the idea behind sharing the video, and you were very clear about that, was inclusion, and that it was about love and inclusion. And I think that's just a powerful statement of everybody has their path, and everyone can choose their path, and that what we're talking about is you keep bringing it back to that four-letter word, love, of how do we love? So talk about that for a minute. What was your journey of genuine, authentic love? Because that's a hard thing to hear when you're looking at your child of 7 and have this future imagined, right? And then suddenly at 24, he's telling you this future that will not be, and you have to, you know, shift the boat, turn the boat around. So what are some things that you learned along the way about how to do that?
Well, that would take many, many hours to share our journey and all the things that I learned, but in a nutshell. Yes. So, you know, initially I said, I love you. I knew I loved him, that did not change anything, but I put conditions on it. You know, at that time, he said, when he came out to us, he said, Mom, I know I cannot marry a girl. I know it's not possible. I've held their hands, I've kissed girls, and Mom, it's not going to happen. And I've never held a guy's hand, and I've never kissed a guy, but I know I'm attracted to men. And I don't know what the future looks like, Mom, because I don't know if I can live a life alone. And like, he was having this wrestle too. And so, you know, he wasn't dating at that time. So I had said to him, well, you know, if you do start dating, you can't bring your boyfriend or who you're dating home, because that wouldn't look good. You know, you have younger brothers and sisters and grandkids and
children, and
so I put these conditions. But I thought I was being loving, and he said, Mom, I know your moral values. I know. Well, jump it 2 years later when he is dating, and he has met somebody that he wants to bring home to meet the family. And he sent me a text to see if he could bring this person to Sunday dinner. And I text back and I said, is this person, is it a boy or a girl? And he said, it's a boy, Mom. It's someone that I've been dating, and I would like him to meet the family and the family to meet him. And I thought, oh my goodness, I didn't even know he was dating, which was another parenting error. Like, I thought I had created this space where he could tell me and talk to me about anything, but still this part he was afraid to tell me and hadn't told me until he had, you know, met someone that he really liked. And I immediately, this was in a text, so not face to face. So I immediately looked up, Heavenly Father, how do I respond? How do I respond to this? And the answer was just so clear. Oh, you love him. You love him unconditionally. I had let our other 6 children bring home who they were dating to home, you know, to our house, their friends or who they were dating, and why wouldn't he be allowed that same opportunity? But it was hard, but feeling that I knew came from above, that little voice, that impression, I knew it came from above. And I text back and said, yes. And then I called my husband and I said, he's dating and he's bringing someone. And I let siblings know. And yeah, so that, you know, those little things. No, I've been talking so long, I forgot what the question was.
No, I love that. That's exactly what, because it's a journey. And hopefully the more that we learn from these experiences, that it will be a shorter path to getting to the end result, which is this beautiful relationship you have with your son now, of an authentic journey of being able to say, I love you. And yes, he's welcome here. And I think people listening, I think one of the biggest struggles, especially with Christian people, is, well, if I love them, that means I'm condoning what they're doing. And you have found a beautiful way, I think, of being able to live your religion and your religious beliefs and those beliefs that really come to your core and that you've taught, and do things that not look like it is conducive to that religion, right? But then we go back to the Savior, and he was eating dinner with publicans and all kinds of different people, Samaritans, right? And so I love that you bring this to light of, you don't have to walk away from either. And you make that point. So how have you been able to stay in that space of still adhering to what your soul knows is right and true for your beliefs, and still loving your son in his space?
Yeah. Well, the two greatest commandments, love God and love thy neighbor. And neighbor is family. It's often easier to love the neighbor, other people, than it is your own family at times. I don't know what that is, but family. And to me, I couldn't imagine my life without my religious faith, and I could not imagine my life without my son. And I knew I needed both in my life, and I was embracing both. And I felt that I would not be living my Christian values if I didn't love my son. If I turned him or any of my children away, turned my back, that I was not following that commandment to love thy neighbor. And the more that I lived that, the more that I opened my heart and had compassion and empathy and sought to understand this, the bigger my heart grew. Like in the movie Grinch, when his heart just grew and grew. That's how my heart, I feel, has just expanded. The more that I would just authentically show my son that he was valued and that we cared and that he was safe to come in our home and he didn't have to worry he wasn't going to be lectured to or preached to. We were just going to love him and love whoever he loved.
I think that is marvelous, and that you did it. You did it. And again, it sounds authentically, you know, where I know there are other people in your family who some really disagree with what's happened and some that are on board. How have you navigated especially the older sibling situation of people being on board or not?
Yeah. So we did have one sibling that really struggled. When I sent that text out that said he's bringing someone that he's dating home, that they said, well, then we won't be coming. Or if we come, we're not bringing our children, because what example would that be setting? That would be condoning. And it literally is a journey for the whole family. And we learned respect for all. Like hearing other siblings hearing that they would not bring their children or they would not attend, cause others to be angry. And I emphasize, like, no, we have to respect all. And she is doing what she feels is right for her family. And it could be what is right for her family. We just have to respect all. And I just had to be clear to my family that I had come to the conclusion that my door would be open to everyone and anyone. And everyone had the agency to choose whether to come or not come. But we wanted everyone to feel welcome and to be there. And it hurt when somebody was missing. But it was a journey for each member to seek and figure out how they were to respond. And in the end, love was the answer. And they each one came to that conclusion on their own little bumpy journey and discovering what that looked like. But we now are an inclusive family. Everyone is there, because when one is missing, we all hurt. And there were a lot of tears along the way, from my son, from myself, and my daughter and her family. A lot of tears, and a lot of seeking to understand one another and putting ourselves in each other's shoes, having that empathy, going to God. How do I respond? How do I move forward? And we all got the same answers, that we were to love. It just was a different journey, and what that looked like, and how to get there, to be in unity and loyalty to one another.
I think it is fantastic that as you're sharing this, it's clear that, you know, when people think it's kind of an one or the other, faith or family, that through your faith, you were able to create this greater love and empathy in your family. And to me, I think that's the point, that, okay, where does it lead? Will this lead us to more love, to a safer, healthier love? And I think it's magical that you had the authenticity to open up that dialogue, to have those open conversations, to let the tears be shed, to not force people to a place of readiness before they were ready. Then it wouldn't be authentic, and they would just be ticking off the box. But then still creating a space of, there is respect, which is, I think, the stronghold of all relationships, right?
Right.
The footing of that, which is respect, and what that looks like. And it doesn't mean that you can't set some healthy boundaries that will work for you or your family or whatever that looks like, but this healthy, open, respectful dialogue of seeking to understand and trying to figure out where you're all at this space, leaving open the possibility for future growth, I think is just magic. It's just amazing. So let's go back for a second to, you've gone through those phases and those stages, and you've had your tears, you've had your things that the mistakes you've made, and your family has had, like we all do. Let's go back to that original conversation where you said, you know what, hurt your heart that he had been carrying this for so long and wasn't able to share this. So when he finally did, let's say people listening, maybe they have a child who is going to have this experience, or they already have, or they're holding it in and they are maybe not aware of. I would love to talk about, are there any signs that you should be looking for, or anything that could make that dialogue be more open before someone hits 24? And then let's talk about, what are some that you gave some great steps in your book about, if that conversation happens, how to respond versus react, right? How to respond so that you are prepared. So is there any signs or anything that you should look for as a parent? Because I'm sure you were looking back going, well, how could I not see this? So any thoughts on that?
Yes. So what kept my son in the closet, and what I have heard from listening to hundreds of stories of what keeps people in the closet, is fear of rejection. They grow up listening. They hear the things that you say within the walls of your home about the LGBT or anyone else that may be different. They hear those things. They hear what their friends are saying. They hear the comments or the things that are shared in their church community. So fear of rejection. Everyone wants to fit in. Everyone wants to feel valued and respected. And they're hearing that if they come out, they may not be respected or valued and rejected. So they stay in the closet. And my husband was one of the most homophobic people on the planet, and he will admit that. And if you watch our video, he is very raw and real about that in his journey. And also in the book, he writes the epilogue. The last chapter in the book is his story.
Which is great.
But he knew every joke about the LGBT, and he wasn't afraid to tell them or to express his feelings about them. And so my son knew. So he didn't know when he came out if he was going to be rejected and not allowed in the home. And you hear that so much. And why they come out, they reach that point of, like, enough is enough. And for their mental stability, like, it is hard to keep your life, not being able to be authentic and share all about you, but to be worried about how you walk or how you talk or how you look at someone, or and having to try to fit in, to look like the norm, to look like you're straight or you're fitting someone's expectations. It's very draining on them, and a lot of anxiety and depression is in this community. And suicide ideation is really high in the suicide rate. So reaching that point of enough, I just need to be I need to come out, I need to share, because they just can't take it anymore. And some share with just a person to person, or just their family or a few friends, and some come out in a big public way and put it on Facebook. This is me. No matter how a person comes out, know that it's the scariest thing to tell anyone about this part of them, because it's not the norm. They're marginalized, they're the minority, and that is scary. So if anyone is to come out to you, the first thing is thank them for trusting you with this, and tell them how much you love them. Throw your arms around them and say, this makes no difference. I love you. Thank you for trusting me with this information. I don't know a whole lot. Share with me. Let's walk this journey together. Help me. How can I be the best friend or the best parent or the best ally? Teach me. Let's do this journey together.
I love those just very initial things to do, and how maybe innocuously that people in families have said things, or over the kitchen table, or about TV people or whatever, not realizing how painful that might be for someone else. And again, I think what you're saying is still live your religious beliefs, of what you believe. So for example, in Christianity, we believe a man and a woman, marriage is between a man and a woman. That doesn't mean you can't talk about that. But what I'm hearing from what you're saying is the way that it's talked about, where it's not this, other people's belief systems are not unintentionally ridiculed or minimized or made to feel less than or anything like that would make them feel that they were going to be bullied or ridiculed or something like that. So I love the point that you make, is that awareness first and foremost of what's happening in our everyday conversations and in our homes. And then I love this of thank you for trusting me with this. I love you, and teach me. Help me to know what this means to you. What does this look like for you? I think that is a powerful conversation starter, to just, what does that look like for you? What does that mean for you? Because you make a point in the book that there's a lot of different labels and titles, and they mean different things. So there's same-sex attraction, there's gay, there's bisexual, there's all these different things. And that step toward understanding what it looks like for them and what that means is just, I would imagine, huge, so that you can have greater understanding of what the situation actually is.
Right. And for me, there was a time I wanted to know what it meant to be transgender, what it was like for a transgender person. And so I reached out to a transgender woman that I knew and said, can I spend the day with you? I want to hear your story. Let's go to lunch. I want to go to your home. I want you to show me your beautiful clothes collection. She collected these beautiful clothes and shoes and purses, and she had the closet that I wish I had. I said, share me your story. And we laughed together, we cried together, we hugged, and it just opened my understanding to what it's like for a transgender person, someone that feels different than their birth assigned gender. So that goes back to, seeking to understand what it means to be gay, bisexual, transgender, and a lot of other letters and terminologies there also.
And that point that you make of seeing the person and knowing the label and understanding what that looks like, so you can seek understanding, but knowing that person. I have a neighbor who has a transgender child, the sweetest, nicest gal, that she comes over and she snow plows the driveway to be service oriented. I mean, just the kindest person. And we trade cookies back and forth, and just the sweetest thing. And I think you're absolutely right. Seeing a person, that goes for everything that we experience in this mortality, but specifically for this, where it is such a core vulnerable thing. I love that you also say in the book some other things after you say, thank you for trusting me, and I love you, and I don't know a lot, teach me. And I love that point you say, share your story, because we all have these stories and we want to be heard and seen, right? And then you say, don't preach. Don't think that sharing these little, scripture things and talks are going to be like, make it all better. So what's your thoughts on that? On still, you still have family scripture, you still have family home evening kind of things. How do you walk that line?
Yeah. Yeah, like I said, my son was 24. He was away at school. He was going to school in Hawaii. And for 2 years, from 2012 when he came out, and 2014 when we came out in a public way, those 2 years, my husband and I, we sent him a lot of emails with our texts with scriptures or stories, or from gospel related stories, thinking, oh, he's gonna read this, and he's like, just going, I don't know what we were thinking, other than this is going to inspire him and fix him, and he's going to want to choose to be straight. And not knowing that every one of those texts and emails, he said he would just cry because he knew. And finally he said to me, Mom, I read everything that you and Dad send to me. I've read them over and over growing up. Anything that had to do with homosexuality or gay, he said, I was trying to learn what meant about myself. And he said, I had read all those stories. I read the scriptures. Mom, I served a mission for 2 years. I know that. And that's what makes the wrestle even more difficult. And I know that, Mom, I know your moral values. I know what you wish my future looked like. I just need you to love me.
So perfectly said. So perfectly said. And in the best way, don't we all as parents? We just think, if I can do this or give you vitamins or do that, and if we do these things, then the A plus B equals C will work, right? And I think everyone is seeing, in the day and age we live in, global pandemic, racial unrest,
yep,
all of these things, that the A plus B equals C formula is not working. It's, we have to reevaluate. We have to do it differently. Not that we throw out those things that we know to be true and that work, but we might have to work the formula different for different people,
right,
and different situations. And I think that's a beautiful advanced skill where we can take a toolbox, we can take those tools and we can say, okay, I can build something different. It's good, but just because it's different doesn't mean it's bad. I can build something different than what I had expected, and it's still going to be really good and wonderful and meaningful. So I love that. And the last thing that you share is keep the communication lines open. So give me a tip, and give us a tip on how you've been, because that's a lot of different personalities, perspectives. There's religious stuff in there and belief systems, and that, I mean, we're talking all kinds of stuff. So how do you keep those communication lines authentically open and still feel that you're staying true to you?
Right. Yeah, that relationship is key. And for myself, when I'm hit with a situation or a scenario that kind of rattles me, and initially I want to blurt this first thing that comes to my mind. I have to, and it's a lot easier now, thank goodness, for me to stop and let it sit and think, okay, how can I respond? I know I need to respond from a place of love. And if how am I going to react, or what I'm going to say, is it going to draw a wedge in our relationship? Or is it going to keep that communication open and to strengthen our relationship and seek to understand one another's differences and have that respect? That communication is key, because I have 7 children. They're all grown and adults and married now, raising children of their own, and all different personalities. And we have a big diversity in our family. We have different races, different religions, different orientations. So yeah, a lot of diversity there, but seeking to meet each person where they are and to respect them and truly love them for who they are and what they can add and what we can add to one another. And but that communication and that respect is key, because for me, I want my children to come home. I want them to be around me. I want them to be around each other. And so we have worked really hard, and our journey's not done. I'm sure it'll still go like this, but we've worked really hard to create that loyalty and unity within our family. We have a big family reunion. Well, not big. Well, it's just our children, and there's spouses and children, so it is big. That's 28 of us next weekend. So we'll see how we're doing after spending 3 days with each other nonstop. But I love it. Like it's my focus is to just to meet them where they are and to love them and speak. The only thing I can control is how I respond and how I react. And I want to always react in kindness and love. And it's not always easy. It's something I've had to work on. But that anything else causes wedges and division. So really the only thing that I have found that works is love.
I love this. And for those, again, who are just joining us, we're just kind of wrapping up a little bit, and I'm going to ask Becky to share one last thought that she'd like to leave us with, but let me just wrap up a few things that she had said. Again, the keys to this are seeking understanding, respond with love, maybe even asking, we talked about President Oaks, where will this lead? Will it lead to a wedge? Will it lead to an increase of understanding or an increase of love? And then meet them where they are, whatever that is, whatever that looks like, meet them where they are. And then we can start there to have a respectful, open dialogue and be authentic in our journey to come to that meeting place where we don't have to just show up and be there, that we can say, I need some time. I need to figure this out. I'm not sure how I feel about it. Give me a little time. I think that's so beautiful because that is the crux of healthy relationships. It's this ebb and flow and learning how to fit and meet and connect in the ways that we can in a healthy way. Is there one last thing that you'd like to share with those that are listening?
Yeah, well, I just like to end with a quote by Mr. Rogers. I love him. So Mr. Rogers said, there are 3 ways to ultimate success. The first way is to be kind. The second way is to be kind. And the third way is to be kind.
Perfect. Absolutely perfect. Out of the mouth of Mr. Rogers. Oh my gosh, that movie stopped through the whole thing. For those who want more, and I will say this book is so fantastic. I get no commission off this, so don't think there's anything I've got to tell you. In a totally unrelated matter, I actually was struggling with something with one of my kids, and I went through and flipped open. So I'd read it, and I flipped open to a couple of different places, and it immediately pulled me back to a place of love. Thank goodness, because my child does not know the gift that she was unintentionally given. But this book, Love Boldly, it is Embracing Your LGBTQ Loved Ones and Your Faith by Becky Mackintosh. You can get it at bookstores, on Amazon. If people want to reach out to you on Facebook, where's the best place to reach you?
Oh, I'm all over social media and everything is set to public, so I'm easy to find. I also have a website, beckymackintosh.com, but social media, you can find me.
Fantastic. I so invite you to check it out. And again, even if that's not something that's in your life right now, to know how to navigate that with others in your life or any other problem that you might have with your children, because it does all come back to how do we love like God? How do we do that beautiful, all-encompassing love that we as humans really struggle with? So it's a fabulous book. And as always, if you want more podcasts, then you can check out below. You can subscribe and rate. And if you want more of my stuff, TV segments, blog posts, programs, free challenges, all of those good things, you can go to conniesokol.com and also social media, Connie Sokol. You can check me out there and we can connect on these and other fabulous things. And if you want more of what we're talking about Get Real, check out the other podcasts in this Get Real series. We talk about everything from suicide to postpartum depression to dealing with the death of a child. How do we talk about the tough stuff and get real about it so we can move through it and become better from it? All right. Thank you so much, Becky. And thanks so much for tuning in. And we'll see you next time. Remember, today, take your next step to live your purpose-filled life.